fellow Americans.
Let's talk about the situation at the border. We've seen a huge surge in migrants crossing the border since January. The number of children in custody higher than it was than its 2019 peak during the Trump administration. Your colleague Veronica Escobar of Texas called the conditions there unacceptable. She was there on Friday. Is she right? What more must be done?
Actually, the facts are these. There are more children, about 600-700 more children, unaccompanied children, coming over the border. This is a humanitarian challenge to all of us. What the administration has inherited is a broken system at the border, and they are working to correct that in the children's interest. I'm so pleased that the president, as a temporary measure, has sent FEMA to the border in order to help facilitate the children going from one 72-hour issue into where they are cared for as they are transferred into family homes or homes that are safe for them to be.
And I have to confess, I knew nothing about their suffering until 2021, when I volunteered to help the Biden administration with the crisis at the southern border. As part of Operation Artemis, I was deployed to the Pomona Fairplex Emergency Intake Site in California to help HHS, Office of Refugee Resettlement, reunite children with sponsors in the United States. I thought I was going to help place children in loving homes. Instead, I discovered that children are being trafficked through a sophisticated network that begins with recruiting in home country, smuggling to the U.S. border, and ends when ORR delivers a child to a sponsor. Some sponsors are criminals and traffickers and members of transnational criminal organizations. Some sponsors view children as commodities and assets to be used for earning income. This is why we are witnessing an explosion of labor trafficking. Now, whether it's intentional or not, it could be argued that the United States government has become the middleman in a large-scale, multi-billion-dollar child trafficking operation that is run by bad actors seeking to profit off of the lives of children.
Russia said once they take Ukraine, Poland and the Baltics are next. Those are NATO countries. That puts America at war. This is about preventing war. It's always been about preventing war. My husband is a combat veteran. He's deployed now. The last thing I want him or any of his military brothers and sisters to do is to go to war.
But I think it is time to give the Ukrainians more help hitting these bases inside Russia.
One of the reasons that the administration has hesitated is because they believe it will escalate things even further with Russia pull the U.S. further in. Why not? Why do you think that's a good idea?
Because it's Russia that has escalated this war. Russia has learned how to pull its forces back out of the range where we have allowed Ukraine to use our weapons and get our support.
American media outlets have spoken to scores of people from Ukraine, and they've done scores of interviews with Ukrainian President Zelensky. We ourselves have put in a request for an interview with Zelensky, and we hope he accepts. But the interviews he's already done in the United States are not traditional interviews. They are fawning pep sessions specifically designed to amplify Zelensky's demand that the U.S. enter more deeply into a war in Eastern Europe and pay for it. That is not journalism. It is government propaganda. Propaganda of the ugliest kind, the kind that kills people. At the same time, our politicians and media outlets have been doing this, promoting a foreign leader like he's a new consumer brand. Not a single Western journalist has bothered to interview the president of the other country involved in this conflict, Vladimir Putin. Most Americans have no idea why Putin invaded Ukraine or what his goals are now. They've never heard his voice. That's wrong. Americans have a right to know all they can about a war they're implicated in, and we have the right to tell them about it because we are Americans too.
The idea that we're going to send in offensive equipment and have planes and tanks and trains going in with American pilots and American crews, just understand, and don't kid yourself, no matter what you all say, that's called World War III.
Ron Wyden was confronting the most senior spy in the United States, General James Clapper, who was then the director of national intelligence, right? There's no guy higher than him. The buck stops with him when it comes to intelligence. He's testifying under oath in front of Congress, right? But more broadly, in front of the public. This is televised. And Ron Wyden asked him a very specific question about a program, mind you, that Ron Wyden knows exists because he has security clearance. He sits on the Intelligence Committee. And he knows there's domestic mass surveillance. And this is how it goes. This is how the top spy responds under oath.
So what I wanted to see is if you could give me a yes or no answer to the question, does the NSA collect any type of data at all on millions or hundreds of millions of Americans?
No, sir.
It does not.
Not wittingly. There are cases where they could inadvertently, perhaps, collect, but not wittingly.
So that was a lie. Wyden knew it was a lie. Clapper knew it was a lie. He actually admitted it was a lie after I came forward, 3 months later. Here I am, sitting at the NSA, next to my buddies who I've talked to about these programs. I've gone, look at this, and they're laughing at it. I'm laughing at it, and it's not that we go, oh, ha ha ha, he's getting away with it. It's like, what are you going to do? These guys are, they're bullshitters. The system is built on lies.
That was British police came into the embassy and arrested.
After a long flight from the UK, Julian Assange's day began on the island of Saipan, a tiny territory chosen because it's the closest US court to Australia. This normally quiet courthouse, swarming with reporters, as the WikiLeaks founder arrived flanked by former Prime Minister Kevin Rudd.
Used an AR-15 in order to act out his assassination attempt. An AR-15 has a range of about 400 to 600 yards. My question, why is the Secret Service protective perimeter shorter than one of the most popular semi-automatic weapons in the United States?
There are a number of weapons out there with a number of ranges. Again, an advance was completed. The determination of the perimeter, I'm not going to speak to specifics, but there are a number of factors that are taken into account when we determine our perimeter. Some of it has to do with terrain, some of it has to do with buildings, some of it has to do with assets and resources that are available.
What I'm hearing is that a perimeter was not established outdoors in an outdoor venue that would prevent an AR-15, which is one of the most common weapons used in mass shootings, from being able to be within the range of Secret Service protection.
Have you provided all audio and video recordings in your possession to this committee, as we asked on July 15th, yes or no?
I would have to get back to you.
That is a no. You're full of shit today. You're just being completely dishonest.
So what is the threat to democracy? People on both sides, people in power, saying out loud that they want to control what you get to hear and see. It is real, it is a threat, and it is happening and growing. And I'll tell you what, punishing thought is on the agenda. And I just heard it from someone who's not a kook, not Alex Jones, not Tucker Carlson, one of the most sober and intelligent politicians of our time, Hillary Rodham Clinton.
I think it's important to indict the Russians, just as Mueller indicted a lot of Russians who were engaged in direct election interference and boosting Trump back in 2016. But I also think there are Americans who are engaged in this kind of propaganda. And whether they should be civilly or even in some cases criminally charged is something that would be a better deterrent.
Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg admitted that the Biden administration repeatedly pressured Meta to censor content, including information about Hunter Biden, and Zuck admitted that he also regrets complying with these demands. In a letter to the House Judiciary Committee Chairman, Representative Jim Jordan, Zuck writes, quote, "The FBI warned us about a potential Russian disinformation operation about the Biden family and Burisma in the lead up to the 2020 election. That fall, when we saw a New York Post story reporting on Joe Biden's family, we sent that story to fact checkers for review and temporarily demoted it."
You know, you do some tweets that seem to be, or at least give support to some who would call others conspiracy theories.
Well, yes, but I mean, honestly, you know, some of these conspiracy theories have turned out to be true.
Which ones?
Well, like the Hunter Biden laptop.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am in awe of Ms. Jankowicz. When the department picked her, did it know that she had said that Mr. Hunter Biden's laptop is Russian disinformation? Did it know that she had vouched for the veracity of the Steele dossier?
Senator, let me repeat myself and add an additional fact. One, we do not discuss internal hiring processes.
I think you've got no idea what disinformation is, and I don't think the government's capable of it. Do you know who the greatest propagator of disinformation in the history of the world is? The U.S. government. Think of all the debates and disputes we've had over the last 50 years in our country. We work them out by debating them. We don't work them out by the government being the arbiter. I don't want you guardrails. I want you to have nothing to do with speech.
To be a conspiracy theorist is to have been right all along, despite the efforts of the paid-for liars. And it's also to be demonstrably well ahead of the gullible, still believing in smoke and mirrors. Conspiracy theorist was first used by the CIA to shut down those who doubted the official line about the murder of John F. Kennedy, that fishy old tale about a lone shooter and a magic bullet, and then that lone shooter being shot by another lone shooter before he could talk. That was in the 1960s, and from then, the label conspiracy theorist worked for decades as the means to make thinking people too scared to speak when they smelt a rat. Let 2024 be the year of clearing out the rubbish, the trash, the long overdue year when the past or sell-by date labels, conspiracy theorist among them, are cast into the dustbin of history.
Wake up, everybody. Welcome to the Rebellion. Welcome into Redacted. I'm Clayton Morris.
I'm Natalie Morris.
And boy, we got a jam-packed show for you on this Wednesday to dive into today. Another assassination attempt, a plot broken up by the Secret Service and police, this time in Pennsylvania, plotting to climb up on the roof ahead of a Pennsylvania rally. We'll talk about that. We're also going to talk about why the Kamala Harris campaign is secretly going after X, Twitter accounts, to block community notes and manipulate the results. So when you're searching for information, you're like, why is this community note not here? Well, this seems like a fake news story. Well, now we got to the bottom of what the Kamala Harris campaign has been doing. So we're going to get to that as well.
And this will not be surprising when we look at the new House report on how big tech censored the Hunter Biden laptop. What they show us here, what they've discovered, is truly shocking. Big tech literally joked about influencing the election and how, well, we might get called up on Capitol Hill for this. Ha, ha, ha. It's not funny. And it's especially worse when you think about they were under the Trump administration at the time. So they were subverting their own boss, right, the Justice Department, to do this. We're going to show you this shocking report. We're also going to show you how the White House has thrown Zelensky under the bus. Zelensky's got his feelings hurt because he trusted the United States. Can't even say it. He trusted the United States.
Fool me once. He trusted the United States. That's amazing.
He's got,
if only he had a historical example to look back on that he could have predicted this.
Wait, there's multiple CIA station houses set up inside Ukraine, and I can't trust the United States?
Yeah.
That's shocking.
How'd that work out for you? I got a big I told you so coming for that guy.
Yeah, we're also going to talk with Ralph Schulhammer on the show today about Germany's economic collapse. Of course, Volkswagen laying off tens of thousands of employees. Hey, that's what happens after the U.S. blows up your Nord Stream pipeline. We're going to look at Germany's collapse. You know, they say, what is it? Germany is like so goes Germany, so goes Europe, the largest economy in Europe. I think
the expression is when Germany sneezes, the rest of us get a cold.
Yeah.
That's how Europe feels about
they've got
Germany.
they've got the flu. They've got Ebola right now. Germany does. So we got a lot of news to get to. Let us know where you're joining us from around the world. Good to see the tens of thousands of you on X and on YouTube and Rumble. We've got 6 days left, guys. Can you believe it? 6 days before the election. It's unbelievable. So, and today's like the first day where we got some snow. So I'm freezing. I've got this crazy thing with my eye. It's still like inflamed. Mm-hmm. So if you're like, what's wrong with Clayton's eye? To get punched in the face? No, it's got like some allergic reaction that's driving me nuts.
It doesn't. Well, yeah.
Anyway,
you can send in your
condolences,
remedies,
but it's not. Yeah, no,
Clayton.
And it's just driving me nuts. Anyway, dry weather. I don't know. Anyway,
if that's what we're doing.
No one cares. No one cares about my face. I just want you to know that I didn't get beat up.
Maybe
anywhere.
We do. I'm bringing brown lipstick back. The '90s brown is back, and I'm excited about that. If that's what we're doing.
All right.
Are we?
David, Philip, you guys got any afflictions you want to air before we dive in? He's a little tired.
I got a pimple on my cheek.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, let us know. You guys in the chat, if you guys any kind of an affliction, let us know. We'll do that. We got to have some levity in this craziness right now. All right, 6 days before the election. Well, if you've ever wondered why the Kamala Harris team has never, and I mean never, gets a community note on X, like you're reading a Kamala Harris post on X and you're like, wait a minute, this sounds like a lie. This sounds like a fabrication or an exaggeration. Why is there no community post under this correcting the record? Well, now we know why. Turns out Kamala Harris's team was caught red-handed manipulating the community notes on X. Not only that, her team is launching attacks against people who were critical of Harris. So the Federalist, God bless the Federalist for figuring this out. They did some great journalism, which is rare in 2024 for people to do journalism. But thank you to Federalists for doing this. And they found out exactly what these people are doing. Block community notes we don't like. Harris campaign caught red-handed manipulating X to censor criticism. So here's what's really going on. Kamala Harris's campaign has reportedly set up a Discord server to rally swarms of users. Get all the army together, swarms of users, in fact, many paid Democrats, aiming to manipulate community notes on social media. Now, get this. They're not just spreading their messages. They're actually trying to shut down community notes from showing up on any account that's associated with Kamala Harris, according to the Federalist. So it's all about creating a fake sense of popularity, making pro-Kamala messages seem way more popular than they actually are. Here's an example. Here's one example. Here's a Democrat. So any of these ones that you see in this Discord that have a D next to their name, they are a paid Democrat. They are a paid Democratic staffer. Hey, folks, can you put out a community note? Can you rate notes on this as not helpful? And then they asked the swarm to manipulate the post that X labeled as misleading. So X had already labeled this as misleading when they had posted something about Donald Trump. They're like, no, your post about Donald Trump is misleading. And the community voted on it. This is misleading. So now what the Harris team is doing is saying, oh, so they're calling us out on our bullshit. Can you guys go and say that this is not helpful in order to promote these false narratives? It's unbelievable. They have a whole team dedicated to doing this, to hide these posts. See how these people work?
I myself have noticed when she posts things about economics, I'm like, that's not true, or that,
right.
Why wouldn't there be a note here saying that wouldn't work out? Or the same way you see on Donald Trump's posts or anybody else's post, why are they missing? So now I have an answer, and I am a community note. I have that power.
Yeah, she's a community note person.
I'm a community note raider.
Yeah. And so you might be downvoted. You might be pushed out of this. And here's the kicker.
I suppose.
Kamala's account, along with her campaign's official Kamala HQ account, has barely any community notes at all. None. Even though they've put out hundreds of questionable, misleading posts. Is it a coincidence? No, it's not. So just a few minutes ago, right before the show, because I had actually asked Elon Musk this question today. Also, I posted this. Are we going to see this? Are you guys going to investigate this? And Elon just replied, not to me, he replied to, I think, Mario. But he said, we are investigating this. So we are now investigating this. X is looking into the manipulation of these community notes. And I think community notes has been fantastic.
Yes.
I know it gets manipulated, but I mean, at this level, at scale, they have a team. Basically, Kamala Harris's campaign has a team dedicated to manipulating community notes.
Well, a lot of times I use it as a trail. Like, oh, that seems strange. What's this? And then you look at the community notes and it sends you on an investigation journey. A lot of times it's a great place to start, even for things you don't agree with. Go ahead, David.
Well, I was just going to say there's also a Facebook group that they found that was a bunch of like the Krasenstein brothers and stuff like that who were doing coordinated community note attacks basically. And so I don't know how those people are still part of the community notes, but so it's been going on for a while.
Right. All right. Well, another day, another assassination against President Trump. An attempt again, this time a man pretending to be a woman and a registered Democrat. This dude was arrested for threatening to kill Donald Trump in Pennsylvania once again. Why all these assassination attempts in Pennsylvania? You wonder. First Butler, now Penn State, Happy Valley. According to the New York Post, this 74-year-old Pennsylvania resident was arrested for allegedly threatening to kill former President Donald Trump before the Penn State rally. He said, quote, "I'd like to shoot that guy." You know how when you're in elementary school, they tell you can't even discuss harming the president? Like that urban legend that you used to talk about in elementary school, and you wouldn't even say words around it in the schoolyard. Was that a thing when you were?
Well, I was well aware of that. Oh, the Secret Service will come to your house if you say that or something like that.
We wouldn't even mess with this.
But this guy, I mean, this goes beyond that because he had scoped out rooftops next to the rally.
Yeah.
And well, we don't know yet, but bought a parking pass next to the rally. And again, the Secret Service interviewed him. But you go on.
Well, according to the Post, Paul Javanonis, who uses she, her pronouns, according to the Center County Public Defender's Office, was nabbed after Paul was overheard making the alleged threats while trying to buy a parking pass at the university's transportation office last Friday, saying, "I hate Donald Trump. I'd like to shoot that guy." They said this after making a gun-racking motion with his hand, and also described a plot to climb on a nearby building with a gun during the rally. The Post reports that the Secret Service specifically asked if he thought he could kill President Trump and said probably yes. He thought he could do that. Still unclear if the would-be assassin bought the parking pass so he could carry out the attack next to the rally site. This would-be attack comes only 1 month after a man in Idaho planned a separate attack on Trump at Mar-a-Lago.
A man is in a Kootenai County jail today for allegedly threatening to kill former President Donald Trump. According to federal court documents, Warren Crazy Bull was arrested in Missoula back on August 20th and has been in jail on a U.S. Marshal hold. Documents say Crazy Bull allegedly made multiple threats against Trump, and this includes calling Mar-a-Lago back in July and making posts on Facebook where he threatened the former president. Court documents say Crazy Bull claimed that he made the Facebook posts to get law enforcement's attention, saying that Trump had violated treaties and thereby deprived him of his land. Crazy Bull will appear in court coming up on October 15th.
Yeah, so another day, another assassination attempt. I'm just struck by, again, it's Pennsylvania, because there's so much craziness going on in Pennsylvania right now. I mean, what the hell is happening in Pennsylvania? Super shady stuff. That's exactly what's going on. Let's run it down. So first, we have another assassination plot unfolding in Penn State area, which we just talked about. Then multiple districts attorney, would you say, when you say attorneys general, would you say districts attorney, or you would say district attorneys, I guess?
The attorneys bit is plural.
Okay, so attorneys, district attorneys. Multiple have now reported thousands of fraudulent mail-in ballots were received in Pennsylvania, and they're investigating these. And I think they said about 70% of those mail-in ballots that they were investigating, they found to be fraudulent. Thousands of them. So this is from the district attorney's mouth. This isn't us, YouTube, if you're paying attention. This is from the district attorneys in Pennsylvania saying this. Now reports coming in from all over Pennsylvania of large-scale voter fraud operations and poll workers and police telling people, go home. Hey, it's 1 in the afternoon, 1:45 p.m. I know this polling location is supposed to be open until 5 p.m., but go home. Go home because you can't vote today. This isn't some conspiracy theory. Again, they are sounding the alarm on this, most notably in Lancaster County, and we also had Bucks County, where these incidents are occurring. Former President Trump warned that Democrats have already launched efforts to steal the 2024 election, declaring they've already started cheating, he said, in Pennsylvania. And he said, if you have a mail-in ballot, get that damn ballot in, please, he said, immediately, because they've already started cheating in Lancaster, he said. Watch.
We've set an all-time record in the early voting, by the way, so if you have a mail-in ballot, get that damn ballot in, please, immediately, because they've already started cheating in Lancaster. They've cheated. We caught them with 2,600 votes. No, we caught them cold. 2,600 votes. Think of this. Think of this. And every vote was written by the same person. I wonder how that happened. It must be a coincidence. It must be a coincidence.
Yeah. So he also posted then on X, wow, York County, Pennsylvania received thousands of potentially fraudulent voter registration app forms and mail-in ballot applications from a third-party group. This is on top of Lancaster County being caught with 2,600 fake ballots and forms, all written by the same person. Really bad stuff. He says, what is going on in Pennsylvania? Law enforcement must do their job immediately. Wow. I'm from the Keystone State, and I'm pretty upset about this crap, the craziness that's happening there right now. Then you have these reports of Democrats dressing up as voter protection poll workers, telling Republicans who are lined up by the hundreds, sorry, we're closed. You're not going to be able to vote today. Watch. I mean, take a look at this. So these voter protection badges on the left-hand side of your screen, and these massive long lines for people to wait to get in, being told, no, you're done. We're closed. You can't vote today. If you're in PA, by the way, and you see these people wearing these badges at polling places, I'm telling you, if they're telling you to go home, stay in line. It's your constitutional duty. You have the authority to stay in line and vote.
Well, beyond that, I would say document it. Now, I did an interview on Monday. This piece hasn't done that well on Redacted, and I think that it's suppressed because exactly the content that he says. So the interview is with J. Christian Adams. He's a former Justice Department lawyer who specifically worked in the voter fraud section. And this is exactly the kind of cases that the Justice Department is supposed to work on. They have 94 lawyers right now that are supposed to be sniffing this out and litigating it, any type of voter intimidation. Now, because we labeled that segment, voter fraud is real or something to that effect, it's not being viewed all that
YouTube
much.
is
But
blocking
listen, what he says is that there is a very lucrative type of industry called voter fraud denial. And so we should have known that it would suppress a video like that. So I'm asking you to look into that, share it, and then if you then read his book, this is exactly the kind of thing that the Justice Department is supposed to be addressing. Now, just today, the Voter Fraud Division of the Justice Department released a press release saying, we have 94 lawyers. We are on this. We are watching it. So this is the kind of thing they should be very interested in. So read that press release, watch that segment, read the book, document this. That's what I want to tell you.
Raisinette 35 in our Rumble chat says Lancaster County is Amish country. Yeah, I mean, I grew up in, outside of Philadelphia in Reading, Pennsylvania, and right near Lancaster, outside of Berks County. And yeah, the Amish, this is the first time it looks like they're going to be voting. According to reports, over 80,000 of them are coming out to vote, and they've got their horses and buggies are covered in Trump flags. Yeah. I don't know if you've seen these TikToks, but they're covered in Trump flags and American flags, and they don't usually vote in U.S. elections. This is going to be transformative. Maybe this is why they're panicking in Pennsylvania right now. But to Natalie's point, yes, document it. Film it. If you're in PA and you see these people wearing these sort of polling place protection badges, we're here as like watchers. Find out, are they legitimate? Are they an actual poll worker? Are they a legal poll worker? Or are they a Democrat sitting there telling these Republicans to go home? Like this lady, watch.
Do you have a certificate to be a poll watcher?
I don't have to answer you, and you may leave.
No, this is a public place. I don't have to. Because I see your tag, and
you don't have the right to talk to me. So
this is America and a public place, so I have every right to talk to you.
You don't have the right to
So
talk
are
to
you
me.
a poll watcher?
I am here for early vote monitoring.
For early vote monitoring. Oh,
different
early vote monitoring. Early vote monitoring.
You do not have my permission to videotape.
This is public.
I don't give a damn.
Do you know the law?
Yes, I do.
Oh, you do? So then do you know that I'm allowed to videotape you in public?
No, you don't have a right.
Yes,
to
I do.
videotape
This is
me.
public.
I have told you, you do
This is
not.
public.
First Amendment. Thank you.
Okay, so let me tell you exactly where to go, because today the Justice Department released this press release about their efforts to protect the right to vote, prosecute election fraud, and secure elections. If you see this, sure, send it to Redacted, but we can't fix it for you. Who is supposed to fix it? And again, we have a Justice Department that's run by Democrats that may not be very motivated to fix it, but they're supposed to. That's why they exist. So you're supposed to go to civilrights.justice.gov. That's where you go. So you need to be doing this.
Civilrights.justice.gov. Maybe we can put that even up on the screen if we're able to. I don't know. Civilrights.justice.gov. Go ahead, David.
I also wanted to point out that the AG and the FBI started a task force where they're going to make it a criminal offense to harass poll workers. And I don't think that was any mistake that they did that, because they're expecting this and they want to try to stop you with the police now. Because I've seen a lot of videos where the police are actually getting involved in, rounding people up and moving signs and stuff like that, which they shouldn't really be involved in.
Well, you're one step ahead of me, because that's exactly what we're about to show you. So this is at the same location. Now police are putting at 1:45 in the afternoon. This is supposed to be open until 5 p.m. in Pennsylvania under Governor Josh Shapiro's order that you're allowed to vote until 5 p.m. Why are police then closing these polling locations down with all these Republicans in line? Here, watch.
Question. I have to bring someone here about 4 o'clock to vote. Are they going to
ask you to talk to this?
Are they going to turn everyone down?
I'm going to ask you to talk to this gentleman because the voting is closed right now.
It's closed.
I just want you to talk to this gentleman.
We have the right to vote until 4:30.
I get you.
Why is it closed?
Let me explain it to you.
Please.
Okay. This process is very slow and grueling.
That doesn't matter if we're online.
Very slow and grueling.
Doesn't matter if we're online by 4:30. We have the right to
The reason why
vote.
it had to close was because a high volume of people wanted to do this. Slow and grueling.
Well, then they
So
have to wait till everyone's.
They had to cut the line at 1:45.
They cut the line at 1:45.
1:45.
You hear that, everyone? They cut the line at 1:45.
Here's your.
This is voter fraud, by the way.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
So you have the right to vote until 5 p.m. They cut the line at 1:45. They put up these little, stands there.
They have the right to cut the line at the closing time. If you're in line by 4:30,
Right, so-
they don't have the right to say we can't process these people until 4:30.
But they're setting up these things at 1:45, and they're putting these things back, all these like little, metal stands up way back so that you can't vote. I even saw someone here in our chat. Just thank you for your $5 super chat. And Bucks County says yes, they are closing these polling locations early. I live in Bucks County. I think it was Andrea said. So they are closing this down. It's unbelievable. And as SM says here in our chat, it's criminal. But what if in Pennsylvania, it goes beyond that. I mean, there's some real shady stuff happening in Pennsylvania. What if in Pennsylvania, suddenly a bus pulls up full of illegal immigrants, gets out to vote and cuts the line? You're in line for an hour, 2 hours, and if a bus of illegal immigrants shows up and then gets in front of you, yes, this is happening in Pennsylvania. Friend of the show, Ann Vandersteel, posted this during her newscast today from Pennsylvania. Watch.
No, they had these people, they had about 12 of them walked in. They were all foreigners. And then they took them up. These younger people helped them to fill out they say vote PA today.
Yep.
And then
Vote
they took
today,
them up
PA. Yep.
and somehow they beat a 2-hour line. And then they walked up and the one lady, they were even asking her, they're like, we don't have you in the system. Your name's not right. And they're like, oh, well, we'll take it back and change it.
Yeah.
How do you change your damn name?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, thank you.
Oh, like this is happening in Pennsylvania, folks. So if you have a bus of illegals pull up and cut the line, don't be shocked. It's Pennsylvania. Meanwhile, in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, emergency services shutting down voting. This is also what David was just talking about, putting up these metal signs here. DC Drano says, if you want to know what third world elections look like, here it is. Cops shutting down voting lines because too many Republicans are voting. This isn't Cuba or Venezuela. This is Pennsylvania. So do not let them stop you from voting. And here is that video. 2 in the afternoon. Watch.
It's 2:41 and they are ending the line.
$2:41 in the afternoon. There you go. We're done. No more voting. Go home. You show up at 2:41 to go vote. Sorry, you're done. So Trump sued them yesterday in Bucks County after this news broke about Bucks County. And guess what? Trump won. This just coming in right before the show. The Trump campaign has won its lawsuit in Pennsylvania against Bucks County after they shut off voting lines early yesterday.
That was surprisingly fast.
Yeah, surprisingly fast. They're fast tracking these in the courts, I guess. Good. Yeah. So they have to stay open till 5 p.m. no matter what. And this is, I guess the governor had signed, 5 p.m. Josh Shapiro, said that. So here's LaDonna Pauls in our chat says, this is illegal. I'm a poll worker and we go at 6 p.m. and stand in line and no one can get in line after me, but not early. Also, no one is allowed to cut the line regardless of who they are. So this is illegal. Thank you, LaDonna, for your chat there. And we'll wrap up Pennsylvania with talking about this. Why is this showing up on a local ABC News network? WNEP 16, scrolling election results before the election has taken place. They put this up on their screen. With 100% of precincts reporting, Kamala Harris has won Pennsylvania by 52% to 47%. Now, the network, the station has apologized for that. They said we didn't mean to do that. We didn't mean to put that up on the screen.
How do you accidentally make that graphic? Oops. I just fell on my computer and made
I accidentally typed Kamala 52%.
Look what happened.
Oh my gosh.
Have you ever heard that? Like if you put a blender in a dryer, it will never assemble itself.
No.
Like it doesn't work that way. You can't accidentally do that.
Exactly. So there. But I should point out in Michigan, also Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson says there's a nationwide issue right now with Dominion voter access terminals preventing voters from making certain selections. Oh, trouble with Dominion voting machines, you say?
Issues with the programming of the VATs with specifically
Yes.
from Dominion.
Mm-hmm.
Why was that only caught in the past few days, and why can't it be fixed? I saw the release.
Yeah, this is a nationwide issue with Dominion voter access terminals in the counties that use them. And the voter access terminals, of course, not all the machines, just the ones that are accessible, have an issue with the straight party voting and a programming issue that's, again, affected the machines nationwide. And I think all of us that use Dominion machines were were unhappy to learn about this during the testing period and as early voting began. So we're working with Dominion to seek accountability on that front, and also are working with our clerks to ensure voters are aware of this programming issue that will require them to ensure they are voting every section on the ballot.
Oh, okay.
Because we do allow voters to cross over in ways that a lot of other states don't.
Because we have straight party. It's not struck me as I've talked to my other colleagues in other states. They're just as upset about it as we are. So, yeah.
Yeah.
She doesn't look that upset.
So a lot of other states, trouble with the Dominion voting machines. Yeah, they're all, I mean, really?
Okay. It's funny because they've been having these problems since the Bush-Gore election in 2000 with programming these machines because Dominion became, or Diebold became Dominion. So it's like, it's been happening since 2000.
But we're fine with it. We only just learned about it this week during testing of the programming. Okay, sure. So it can't be fixed. No worries. Nothing to see here. Don't worry about it. I should mention we did get a Rumble rant here from on Rumble from Jer Swam. Says these are not official poll workers. Those people wearing those badges, the tags they're wearing are provided by the Democratic Party. That is illegal. Exactly. So ask them, are they legitimate legal poll workers? Mm-hmm. No, they're there from the Democratic Party. So pay attention to these people.
Yes, indeed. All right. Well, big tech companies knew that they were influencing the 2020 election by covering up the Hunter Biden laptop story, but they did it anyway. Why? They admitted to color the way an incoming Biden administration views us. So they knew that they were doing something wrong, but they said, we got to do it because Biden's going to be the president and we need him to be good to us. Big tech. This includes Facebook, Twitter, Microsoft, YouTube, Google, all of them. Okay, so this is all according to a new report by the House Judiciary Committee on the weaponization of the federal government. Here are some of the more infuriating bits that they found. The report shows damning evidence that the FBI met with big tech to pre-bunk the story about the Hunter Biden laptop and proof that the Bidens had links to foreign influence in Ukraine for money for months before the story broke. Now, we knew that already, but we have more proof of it now. This was done while President Trump was in office, so they were working against their own president, not just the Justice Department and the FBI, but also big tech, working against the person who was the president at the time in order to get Joe Biden elected as president. Tech companies were told that the Hunter Biden story would be Russian information, but they knew that they would not be able to prove that. They didn't care, though, because they said, when we're pushed to prove it, don't worry, because the USG, which is the U.S. government, will run cover on their lack of proof. Take a look at this, where they say, well, we won't be able to prove it that it was hacked material, but don't worry about it because we'll have backup from our trusted secret squirrel partners that this is a Russian op. We don't have to prove it because the U.S. government will lie for us. Basically, that's infuriating. And we recall that when Twitter said we were not able to find information that there are Russian actors that are influencing the election, they got punished by Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff, who went to the press and said they're lying. They have it. They're just not telling us. Okay, so also tech companies joked that they wouldn't get bad press for censoring the Hunter Biden laptop story because it doesn't matter, because the golden rule is, this is an internal chat in Facebook, I believe. The internal rule, the golden rule, the press is only as good to you as you are bad to Trump. Meaning we'll do this, it's unconscionable, but the press won't worry because it's bad for Trump. Okay. They wrote it out. And did tech companies then know that this would be election interference? Yes, they did. Look at this one messaging thread. They're joking. They say, well, when we get hauled up to the Hill to testify on why we influenced the 2020 elections, we can say we've been meeting for years with the U.S. government to plan for it. And because the censorship push against Hunter Biden laptop went so well, the Biden administration just kept going during the pandemic. And we know that they censored Americans for asking questions about the pandemic, for asking questions about the vaccine, lockdown, school closures, mandates, all of that. They just kept doing it because they had that little test bed during the election that helped to get Joe Biden elected. And here we are. So if you're going to vote for the Democrats knowing that they did this to sabotage the election, they kept on going, well, you can be my guest if you want to. If you like being censored, then that's your vote.
We got more news to get to here. We're going to talk about Zelensky begging for those long-range tomahawks and now being thrown under the bus by the Biden administration. What is about to happen in Ukraine? We're going to talk about that in a second. But first, there is a massive new scam that's been growing across the United States. How many of you, I'll just ask you guys in the chat right now, how many of you guys own your own home? Just let me know in the chat on Rumble and on YouTube here. Let me know how many of you own your own home and how many of you actually check on the ownership of your home's title on a regular basis. Like how many of you are aware of the safety of your own home title? Well, a rising scam across America now. A few years ago, it didn't even exist. Now it's exploded. And the FBI has specifically even set up task force to deal with home title fraud. Yes, people stealing your home title. So you might be asleep one night and wake up and find out that you don't even own your own home anymore because a scammer has managed to go to a notary and literally steal your own home using this scam, home title security. So when it comes to security, most homeowners think about security measures like video cameras, security alarms, and deadbolt locks to keep their property safe. But home protection goes well beyond this, safeguarding your physical space, and it is in the digital space. Now, this is how this is happening. Scammers are getting more sophisticated, and they don't need to break into your home to actually steal it. They can steal it from you using your own home's title. The FBI calls this scam house stealing, where scammers can access your home's equity by filling fraudulent documents out with the county. They can file them with the county, and the county recorder doesn't even have to verify it. So they can steal your home's equity and then go and use it for other purposes. This is absolutely crazy. And because property records are public records, that means anyone can access your information. And the scary part is you likely won't find out until unpaid loan bills or foreclosure notices start arriving in your mailbox. By then, the damage has already been done and left you with a legal and financial nightmare to deal with. The best thing you can do for your personal security is to make sure that your most valuable asset is secure in every way. That's why I protect our home with Home Title Lock. Guys, and I'm telling you, you guys need to look into this immediately. It is your first 30 days, by the way, are totally free. And you can just test it out for 30 days. But I'm telling you, this is like having that extra layer of protection for your home that you didn't even think you needed. HomeTitleLock.com/redacted. Try it for free for 30 days. What they do is they monitor your property records and they alert you of any changes. Like you could be asleep and wake up in the morning and you get an alert from Home Title Lock that someone has basically been trying to steal your home title. I'm telling you, it's amazing. But the best part about Home Title Lock, I talked to their team on the phone last week because I was so fascinated how they operate. They have a team that will actually restore title to your house. So if this happens and you get scammed and they steal it from you, they will help restore it and get it back to you. It's actually really amazing. You can get a 30-day free trial right now by going to the website on your screen, HomeTitleLock.com/redacted. Get a complimentary title history report by going there. Again, HomeTitleLock.com/redacted, or click on the link in the description box below. You need to check it out. Again, it's free for 30 days. Protect yourself against these scammers. And I'm telling you what, we're hearing this from these illegal groups that are coming into the United States, and they're doing this, okay? Not even Americans doing this, illegal immigrants as part of these gangs doing this, stealing home equity. So protect yourselves, guys, and you can try it for free right now. So I'm really excited about these guys because I've heard about them for a long time. And when they reached out to be on the show, I was like, yes, let's get them on here. So thank you.
Title fraud is as old a business as they come. Do you know that's where the saying, if you believe that, I've got a bridge to sell you, comes from?
Really?
Because scammers were quit claiming the Brooklyn Bridge. They didn't have any claim to it, but they were selling their possible claim in the Brooklyn Bridge, and people bought it. So that's where there's a little trivia for you.
I just saw someone say this is where the blockchain is so important. Yeah, the problem is that the laws are not as advanced yet as where these scammers are. And that's what the FBI is having to deal with a lot of these problems right now. All right.
Yeah. Well, the propaganda for the war in Ukraine seems to be crumbling. U.S. officials leaked that Zelensky's victory plan, I'm going to put that in quotes, includes a request for long-range U.S. Tomahawk missiles. Only Zelensky thought that part was on the down low, so he's got his feelings hurt. This is the plan he's been pitching to American and European leaders for weeks, but getting kind of a meh response. He did get some money out of the U.S. and some EU countries, but no major commitments or action or attention like he got in 2022 when the conflict with Russia began. Now he says his feelings are hurt because his request for long-range weapons was supposed to be confidential, but someone in the Biden administration leaked it to the New York Times. Why would the Biden administration do that, you might ask yourself?
Wonder why.
Zelensky was upset. He says this means there's no confidentiality amongst world leaders, even when their global partners watch.
Before the full-scale war, there are prevention things of so many leaders in the world, so many strong economies, so many strong countries, a lot of prevention steps. When I asked them in the victory plan to give me the package of long-distance weapons, and we will use it only if Russia will not stop the war and will not stop continuing escalation, I said, this is a prevention method. They said to me, this is escalation. When a lot of countries began to support victory plan, you see what's going on now in media. They said that Ukraine wants or wanted a lot of missiles like Tomahawk and etc. And but it was confidential information between Ukraine and White House. How to understand these messages? So it means between partners there is no any confidential things.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but what a fool for trusting the U.S. government.
Yeah.
What a mark. Okay.
So this was supposed to be on the DL. You weren't. We weren't. We weren't supposed to talk about
you
this.
believed
Biden
that?
administration.
Okay.
I trusted Victoria Nuland. I trusted Kamala Harris. I trusted Antony Blinken.
Yeah.
The biggest liars in the world.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why they're still not in NATO.
Right.
Yeah, exactly right.
You'll be in soon.
Yeah, we'll get you. We'll make. They made NATO promise to me as well. They make NATO promise, and they gave me a cheese plate.
Well, let's listen to what he's saying. He's been saying this all along. Give us the big guns, and we promise we won't hit inside Russia, because they know that hitting inside Russia would bring repercussions on the people who supplied those weapons, namely us. So he's been promising that, but he has been striking inside Russia with the weapons that they have so far. Now, the New York Times is suggesting that Zelensky may be on this media tour, not actually to get the things he wants, because he's not succeeding at that, but in order to blame the West when he eventually does have to go to peace negotiations with Russia, which he will, but not before thousands of innocent people die. That's why I'm laughing, because he's an idiot, but I'm not, because people are dying who have nothing to do with this and should not. Here's what the New York Times says. They're calling it Plan B. They're saying the real audience for this victory plan might be at home. Some say Mr. Zelensky can use his hard sell, including a recent address to Parliament, to show Ukrainians that he's done all he can, prepare them for a possibility that Ukraine might have to make a deal and give Ukrainians a convenient scapegoat, the West. Well, yeah, but you could have blamed the West all along for leading them into this war. Now, the Financial Times is reporting now that Russia and Ukraine are about to talk about some kind of peace deal, but Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said that this is fake news. He said the basic conditions for talks were in the president's peace initiatives. What he means by that is Russia has been offering to go to peace talks all along, with the conditions that Ukraine must withdraw from what is now Russia and stop trying to join NATO. And while the world loses its steam for Ukraine, this narrative now about North Korean soldiers is being ramped up. But I will say, in terms of propaganda, it's very half-hearted. Don't you think? So what's happening is that Zelensky started talking about North Korean troops fighting for Russia in Ukraine, but he never proved it. North Korea said at the United Nations this was almost too stupid to even respond to. But then the Pentagon parroted this, saying, oh, yeah, we do think that there are some North Korean soldiers fighting for Russia in Ukraine. But even that felt sort of half-assed, like, sure, as if they think that one bad guy, Russia, well, that kept us riled up for 2 years. But if we add another one, maybe we'll get some steam into this war. Now it's Russia and North Korea. Two bad guys. Ooh. We don't have proof of this. They never provided proof. Maybe they are. Maybe they're not. We just don't know. We don't have proof either way. But today, President Biden said that if Ukraine is observing North Korean troops there, they should strike back if they cross into Ukraine. Okay, but ask yourself, why would Russia need reinforcements in Ukraine in a war that they are winning, much less from North Korea? If anything, it's Ukraine that would need the backup, because just this week, Ukrainian MP Anna Shorokrod said that over 100,000 Ukrainians have deserted the military since the conflict began. She said morale is low and people are deserting left and right. So what are they going to do? Well, they have another plan to draft another 160,000 innocent people who are not trained to fight and do not want to fight, and will be sent to a conflict that should be settled. So let's take a look at the state of the war right now. If we go to the map, the territory you see here that is red and dark gray are the contested regions. They were Ukraine until late 2022, when they asked Russia to come in and protect them from continued attacks by Ukraine. Ukraine had been bombing that area since 2014. Those mayors asked Russia to come in and make it stop. Now, again, it wasn't Putin's provoked personal attack, no matter what Nancy Pelosi says. That was a alliteration of peas right there. The blue dots you see are where the Ukrainian army is attacking. Notice how far they are from the battle line. They're not even trying to regain that territory. They're fighting in uncontested regions because they don't know what else to do while world leaders figure it the heck out. So that's the state of the war. It's clear that Ukraine will never regain that territory. They don't have the manpower, they don't have the weapons, they don't have the global support. Plus, they don't deserve it because they've been hurting those people for a decade. Now, Kamala Harris said in the debate, the U.S. can't just give this up. It's not ours. I don't know why she said that. It's also not Ukraine's to give up anymore. Now that area belongs to Russia. Ukraine tortured those people. They deserve to lose that region, in my opinion. Donald Trump says Russia wouldn't have gone into that region had he been president, but that means that Ukraine would have then been able to keep attacking that region. So neither of them make any sense about the conflict if you're going to vote on this. But at least Donald Trump says he is serious about ending it. And Kamala Harris just says, well, we have to wait till Ukraine's good and ready to end it. And we can't give up. So could Donald Trump do this? Possibly, if they do cut off Zelensky, as Republicans do have an appetite to do. The Dems have no appetite for that. So if you care about civilian lives, all you can do is pray that someone who gets in office will stop Zelensky's government handouts and force him to the peace table. So let us know what you think. Why are they throwing Zelensky under the bus? Does it seem like maybe it's time to admit defeat and actually get peace for these people?
It'd be amazing. Thank you guys for subscribing to the channel. We are a free show. You can watch us for free every day, Monday through Thursday. We're live at 4 p.m. Eastern time, covering the stories the mainstream media ignores or is redacted. Thank you guys for being here and being a part of our great community every day. It's great to see the tens of thousands of you all over the place. Mike T says, why do redacted viewers love Putin so much? Do they?
Who said that? Who said that?
Mike T is asking, do our viewers? I don't.
No, he's guilty of binary thinking. What we're saying is that Ukraine's the bad guy, has been for a long time. The United States led them into that in 2014 with the coup that we staged. We want those people to have peace. That doesn't mean Putin's the good guy. That means that Ukraine's the bad guy, and we've been supporting them. So stop with your binary thinking. Don't come at me with that Putin apologist.
And by the way, on the State Department's own website has labeled Ukraine as the most corrupt country, one of the most corrupt countries in Europe, and with disappearing children, the corruption inside the government. So we knew this going into this all along. Anyway,
sure.
We've got more news to get to here. We're going to look at Germany collapsing, and this is all tied together with the war, because when you sanction Russia, what did you do? Well, you actually really crushed Germany's economy. Oh, also when the United States and the CIA blew up the Nord Stream pipeline, you destroyed the flow of energy into Germany and destroyed their manufacturing basis. Volkswagen laying off tens of thousands of people. In fact, someone in our chat just said that they just got laid off from Volvo up in New England, part of the country right now as well. So Volvo laying off individuals as well. So again, this is widespread. We're going to talk about the collapse of Germany.
Yes, we are. But first, we want to tell you about our friends over at Buy Optimizers, because if you'd like to think about optimizing your health heading into the end of the year, then this is a great place to start, because you can optimize your health with positive changes in just a short period of time, such as having better nutrition, working out, getting better sleep. Well, now you can get all of those things optimized with Buy Optimizers, because it is a secret weapon for unlocking peak performance. The groundbreaking formula harnesses 7 forms of highly bioavailable magnesium, scientifically designed to help elevate your sleep, support workout recovery, and boost muscle growth. And if you don't know the power of magnesium, you really should look into it. Just the other day, my daughter had a fever and was having a hard time sleeping. I just sprayed some magnesium on her feet to help keep her asleep. She was like, "Mommy, do that again." So magnesium is fantastic, but you have to find the optimal formula to help you as an adult. So you can look into Buy Optimizers and get 10% off with our code using Redacted by going to buyoptimizers.com/redacted. One more time, that's buyoptimizers.com/redacted. Use the code Redacted for a 10% off discount and see if you can optimize your health. One more time, buyoptimizers.com/redacted. The German economy has been slowly collapsing since the war in Ukraine, but now it is collapsing quickly. Last week, the International Monetary Fund cut its forecast and said the German economy would be stagnant this year. They had been hoping for a piddly 0.2% growth. So whose fault is this? Well, the German government is blaming the German people. The finance minister said, "At the moment, we are not as successful as we should be and used to be in the European Union." As if it is the fault of the people. Joining us to discuss from Europe is political analyst Ralph Scholhammer. He is the host of the Hammer Time show on YouTube. Thank you for joining me. Can you interpret this, as I just did, as the German government passing the buck and not taking responsibility for imploding their own government and then blaming the people?
Well, as far as I recall, I think I had my first appearance on Redacted 2 years ago on precisely this topic, when I was talking with Clayton about the German economy, and a couple of times with you as well in the meantime. And pretty much what happened is exactly what we predicted. I mean, all of this was entirely foreseeable, and it was based on government policies. I mean, it's quite the chutzpah to kind of then pass on, as you just pointed out correctly, to pass the buck on to the people. You could make the claim that, of course, to some extent, the people voted for that government. So a certain amount of blame is with the people. But on the other hand, I think nobody really believed when they voted for the Greens and the Liberals and the Social Democrats that they really would go through with all these insane policies. It reminded me of something I just recently read about politics in the United States, where apparently a poll was taken that said that many voters, when they are confronted with some of the more radical proposals of the Democratic Party, they just refuse to believe it, right? From, the whole transgender issue and all this kind of thing, they just say, "Oh, I don't believe that." And I think in Germany, when you look at what the Greens announced that they would do, I think many people just thought, they're not going to do this. Right? You say you're going to do this, but they're not going to really going ahead with it. But this is always the big difference, and we talked about this also on this show quite regularly. That's always the big difference between the right and the left. The right says it, but rarely means it. The left says it, and the left means it. No matter the cost, they want to push through their ideological agenda.
This is so frustrating because we see slow growth in the United States right now, although the recent GDP numbers have been sort of fudged so that we feel good about it. But if you voted for the Progressive Party, you have tanked your own economy because they are supporting war, because they support perversion of the market, because all kinds of things, right? For so many reasons that can go on and on and on. And so, but I guess what I'm so frustrated about is that they're sold that we're the good ones, we're the nice ones, but don't look at what we're doing. And so how is that sold to the German people?
Well, I think what you mentioned is so true. It always reminds me again, as you just mentioned, of this. We always told that, for example, the Republicans or the conservatives also in Europe, it's the party of the big business, right? It's the party of the oligarchs, or you name it. But if you look at, for example, donations to political parties and political movements like Wall Street or the equivalent of Wall Street in Europe, they have always been donating for whatever reason to left-wing parties. And I think a reason for this is, and this is quite underestimated, that of course many of the CEOs of these companies have been marinated in the same left-wing worldview and the same left-wing institutions as many of our civil servants have been. I just give you one quick example. What's currently happening to the German car industry, right, to their automotive sector. I mean, a lot of this, one has to admit, is self-inflicted. I mean, imagine this. You are the country that leads the research and production of internal combustion engines. Like you're Volkswagen. You're the largest producer of internal combustion engines in the world. And then all of a sudden you say, yeah, we're the best at this, but we have no problem if the EU says we're going to ban the ICE, we're going to switch all to electric. And sure, we know that others are better at this, but we don't care about it. And now you see exactly what's happening, right? That, for example, these once successful companies are on the verge of bankruptcy, or in the case of Volkswagen, they just try to survive via shifting all their production out of Germany. I mean, it is astounding, right? Since 1937, Volkswagen has produced in Germany without ever considering closing a single factory. Now they are planning to close down 3 factories. So there was a, let's say, collusion between ideological politicians and naive CEOs of many companies. I mean, because we have the receipts for this. Like, we have interviews with the former Volkswagen CEO who was saying, oh, if you look at Tesla, we don't care. Look at Volkswagen, we're so strong and we have such great programs and our leadership will be undisputed in the future. And now, of course, everything came crumbling down because they stood by and watched as the Greens, the Social Democrats, were, as you correctly pointed out, pushing both for an insane foreign policy in regards to Russia and in regards to Ukraine that is harming their economy, but also domestically, like the famous turning off of the nuclear power plants, like believing you can run an industrialized economy on wind and solar. So there is some plan to go around. But I will say one thing, if you allow me to. I was recently tweeting and saying that I believe the German people don't deserve this. And I think they don't deserve this because not all of them have been voting for the Greens. And I get a lot of feedback saying, oh, no, the Germans deserve this. They brought it upon themselves and they had it coming. All right, some Schadenfreude, I do it myself, might be in order. But what people tend to forget is, given the significant role that Germany plays in the European and partially still in the global economy, if they commit suicide, I mean, we are all, in a sense, in Europe at least, linked together, right? So if one of us is committing suicide and dropping over the cliff, well, they're going to drag many of us down with them. So out of pure self-interest, the decline and economic suicide of Germany is not a good thing. And I'd rather see a prosperous Germany that lifts everybody up than to seeing a kind of a self-defeating suicidal Germany that drags everybody down.
Right. There's a racist component to that, because why would we say the Germans deserve it and other countries don't based on their race, right? And so, for instance, I was watching, you had an exchange on X from this person who said, well, Germans' absence from work due to illness is up above any other developed nation. It's 25 days per year. So they just don't work anymore. Like, literally, this person says Germans don't value work anymore. And that's just not a stereotype that I think of while thinking of the German people. And your response is, it's really not their fault. They have no incentive to work when the government hates them so much. Why not just collect what people who don't work get? And so can you speak to that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think it's partially similar also to a smaller extent in the United States. If you create an incentive structure where you feel that putting in an honest day's work, 365 days a year, then at some point you got to doing it. And we have the numbers, a very clear construction of the German tax codes, the way in which the social welfare system is made. It basically punishes people who want to work. Now, there is an argument being made, right? It's also demographics. The Germans tend to be older than others in Europe, and this is why they have more sick days. But this does not really add up to the experience that when you talk to, for example, company owners, where the idea is that many people say, well, if I have quote unquote sick days left, they're going to be taken just like vacation days. And this is a problem in Germany, right? You have 5 weeks paid vacation, you have a significant number of public holidays, and then you have another couple of weeks at sick leave. So that makes it very hard for companies to be productive, because if in some cases it's true, if your workforce is absent for 2 out of 12 months, it's very, very hard to be competitive on a global scale. But on the other hand, how do you motivate people? I would not be motivated if somebody next to me, who is just as capable and skilled as me, is working less but getting more out of the system. Then why should I put in the extra work? And again, we have the numbers on this. The German state has created conditions with the so-called citizens' money, if you want, Bürgergeld, although more than 50% who get it are not actually citizens or have a non-German background, if you want. But that's a different can of worms we can get into in a few minutes. It was created in a way where the government is taking so much of your responsibilities. They pay your rent, right? You get extra payments for heating, for electricity, and everything. That certain jobs, like getting up in the morning and working in a bakery, does not pay more than being on welfare. So of course, the guy who for a while gets up in the morning to stand at the oven at 5 a.m. to make bread is at some point saying, why should I make bread and work every day if somebody who doesn't do anything gets at the end of the day the same amount of money than I do? So it is demoralizing. And I think we have in Europe particularly, but slowly also in the United States, we create the structure where we punish those who work and we reward those who don't work. And I think this is kind of a mistaken interpretation of socialism that, as always, is further ahead in Europe. But I think that potentially under a Democrat administration, you move into a similar direction in the United States.
Right. And so will politicians be punished for this as Germans realize that they have been working against the German people?
Well, I would go a step further. I mean, this is, I think, the great, size-wise, not being great in the sense of being something positive. The sentiment once again, I think that's also true with the United States, but in Europe particular, is that over the last 20 years, governments have been working for everybody except for their own people. And I think that is not entirely wrong. The priorities have been set, asylum seekers, migrants, foreign wars, climate change, like all these lofty goals, but actually taking care of the main pillars of your society, like your own population that is working hard, that is trying to maintain family life, that is actually the backbone of your society. Small, medium enterprises, you always suffer most from regulation and taxation. Nobody took care of them. And that impression among the people is not entirely wrong. It sounds a little bit like a conspiracy, but I would actually go so far. I mean, it's not really a conspiracy because it is done in the open. That just as Joe Biden recently said, right, that all of Trump's supporters are garbage, I think there's a significant part of European politicians who think the same way about a significant part of their own population. Right? I do not think that people like Olaf Scholz in Germany or Keir Starmer in the UK or Emmanuel Macron in France, that they are patriots in the sense that you and I would be patriots, where I say, okay, there is a hierarchy within a society, and that hierarchy means that priority is given first and foremost to your own people, and then gradually, right, whether it's by whatever circumstances, what's happening, other people might give the permission, the privilege to join those people. But it's not by default that somebody is immediately part of that society. And of course, that the primary responsibility of a government is towards its own people. It's not towards the global climate. It's not towards a foreign war. And it's not towards people who just recently crossed the border. I think there is nothing wrong about saying that. Like this weird, self-defeating, pathological egalitarianism where everybody is the same and it doesn't matter how long you've been in the country, or where the difference is between what affects your people and what affects, quote unquote, the globe. Like there's no differentiation. I think this is a huge mistake. Government is supposed to do what it is supposed to do, and that is taking care of its own people first.
Right. Well, thank you for this context. I would love to see more of the German people understanding this and speaking out against it, like we did last year. We were in Germany for the farmer riots when they realized the government is working against us. And so it does seem like there are plenty of smart thinkers in Germany, but they're disenfranchised by idiots, so to speak. So
yeah.
the politicians there are idiots.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned the agricultural sector, because that's another thing. And one of the conversations we had in the past was about the Dutch farmers, but what's happening in the agricultural sector affects, again, all of Europe. There is an odd tendency from Portugal, I wouldn't say to Germany at least. I think the Central and Eastern European countries are somewhat different. That's always important to mention. But this idea that you can abandon all the things that make modern and prosperous life possible, whether it's food production, whether it's energy production, whether it is a policy that rewards those who work and nudges those who don't work towards work. I mean, the idea of the welfare state has always been that there are, and there always will be, some in our society who, for objective reasons, are not capable of participating in the labor force. They might be too old, they might have certain sicknesses, they might be too young, right? And everybody understands this and says, of course, these people need support. But the idea in the West, and where I kind of resemble a little bit, or where there are echoes of something that Alessandria Ocasio-Cortez was saying, that work should be a choice. Some people choose to work, some people choose not to work. This is not how this, you cannot maintain a functioning society on that principle. And this is, I think, what we gradually see happening, that the concept of the welfare state is where work is an option. Nope, I'm sorry to break it to you, it is not an option, right? It's a necessity, with the exception of those who again, veterans at war, for example, that come back. I mean, of course, there are parts of society that need us work. People who literally did backbreaking work, but you cannot be a bricklayer at the age of 72. Everybody understands this. But I think as a teacher, like it is in Austria and Germany, I don't think you have to retire at the age of 60 if you're a teacher. You can teach well into your 70s. That would be my argument, unless you have some form of dementia or something. But as long as you're compos mentis, I think you can do the job significantly longer. And this is what we have to move towards. Right? And by the way, just another thing, and we have plenty of evidence for this as well. People who work longer, again, unless it's physically very demanding work, but usually it also means that they live longer because it's good for the body. Like if you get up in the morning and you have a purpose, you have something to do, that's a good thing. But this is something that the government should support. It's an absurd idea. There's this weird idea that the best thing you can do is nothing all day long. But it's the exact opposite, right? It's frustrating. You start to wither away both mentally and bodily.
And physically. Yes.
And physically, that was the word I was looking for.
Right. Yeah, I get you. Well, you and I are busy because geopolitics is our business and they're keeping us busy. So we're going to keep working. You can find Ralph's show. It's Hammer Time on YouTube, and you can find him on X. It's Ralph EL. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Natalie.
Well, let us know what you think of the German economy imploding. And I don't mean to say I told you so, but yes, we've been telling you so, that a war economy implodes your own hometown economy. Duh. Okay, we're going to get to your super chats in just a moment. But before we do that, I want to tell you about our friends over at Lear Capital, because while we're talking about the economy, it's a great time to talk about how you hedge your bets, how you make sure that your assets don't implode when your local currency implodes because your politicians are idiots. Well, a great way to do that is to invest in precious metals. And we talk about gold a lot on this show, but also silver is a fantastic investment. It doesn't get the news coverage that gold does, but really silver is in so many products that you buy. It's in hot demand. Since the pandemic, it is being mined once again. So this is something you can invest in. But if you don't know how, well, our friends over at Lear Capital can teach you. In the words of Rich Dad, Poor Dad author Robert Kiyosaki, everyone can afford to own some silver because it's a lower price point than gold. And again, you just have to learn, how do I do this? Where do I keep it? What does it mean for my assets? So Lear can teach you. You can call them. Just get on the phone. A real person picks up and has a real conversation with you and then sends you study material. It's not, you're not going to be pushed into some call center and then they just kind of push you down into a file. No, you get a real conversation. You can call them at 800-613-3557 or go to LearRedacted.com and check out their silver shortage report, because this will teach you why this is such an important asset. And in fact, we do own silver in our own portfolio. Clayton and I do. And it just moved above $30 an ounce. And before it goes to record highs, you can buy some too. So again, just say, I'm going to learn this, whether it works for me or not. Get on the phone, 800-613-3557 or go to LearRedacted.com. Remember, there's no obligation to purchase. It's just free information. Good for you to learn, because if you learn nothing on Redacted, you learn that our governments are not doing well by our currency that we're working hard to earn. So call them today or go to LearRedacted.com.
Yeah, I should mention also, by the way, tomorrow on the show, Dr. Ron Paul, Congressman Ron Paul, is going to be joining us. He's, of course, been, he thinks the U.S. dollar is facing its worst crisis ever, and that it will cease to become the world's reserve currency, and that gold is really the only play. Gold and silver, precious metals. So we're going to talk to Dr. Ron Paul here on the show tomorrow. It's interesting because Ron Paul had this back and forth with J.D. Vance last week. J.D. Vance, he was asked about ending the Federal Reserve. Should we end the Fed? And J.D. Vance is like, I've never been a Ron Paul guy, but I'm starting to come around to this idea of ending the Fed and been open to it. So we're going to talk to Ron about that and his interactions with J.D. Vance. And is there a move right now to also maybe get rid of the income tax? This is something that President Trump has been talking about, floating this idea of ending the income tax. I mean, what would that do for all of us if he ended the income tax in the United States? Of course, where would these warmongers get their money? Where would these warmongers get all their money in the military-industrial complex? How would they fund all their wars if you guys weren't sending your hard-earned tax dollars into them funding it? That'd be like, it'd be amazing. Wouldn't all these warmongers, all of the military-industrial complex that wants us to be in wars against Russia and North Korea and China and to be in Israel, attacking Iran, all of these things, they would just whimper and die because all their money would dry up. It would be amazing. Because you guys wouldn't have to send your tax dollars to them anymore. It'd be amazing. I know, as DC Drano said, like last week when Trump floated that idea, if he did that, if Trump ended the income tax, he would become the greatest president in American history if he did that. That's what DC Drano said. Yeah, I tend to believe him. I tend to believe him. I tend to agree with him.
Yeah, that could almost instantly bring the middle class back. Yeah. Because you'd have more money to spend in the economy.
Well, it would literally create the United States would become the most prosperous country in the world instead of $35 trillion in debt. It would explode the amount of money in the system. Think about Americans having another 30% in their pocket, 37% in their pocket to go out to dinner with their family, to be able to buy a birthday present, to be able to afford their home, their rent. All of that money coming back into the economy, businesses growing and just proliferating. Instead of all that money going to foreign wars, it just would be amazing. It really would. But of course, you have all these warmongers in Congress that wouldn't know what to do with themselves. They would flip out. So we'll see. We'll see if Trump can actually pull that off. Hey, it's Super Chat time here and get some of your Rumble rants. Before we get to that, Seriously America posted this chat in our YouTube chat and said, I really appreciate Redacted for bringing on guests from Europe and Canada, etc., that give us insight into the current state of those countries. Interesting that so many countries are going through the exact same problems. That's our belief here, is that we're not just going to cover the United States. United States is not an island. The United States has its tentacles all over the world. Like yesterday on the show, we covered Georgia, the country of Georgia, and their elections and how the United States is meddling in that election. Watch that story we did yesterday on the show about what's happening in Georgia. And so, yeah, we try to cover around the world. What's that?
That the Georgia story still chaps my ass. Just that we have people in the State Department coming out and going, no, you did it wrong. Like you need to do your state that we don't own it, not ours,
right?
Not our dog.
Like the U.S. is going to lecture other people about their elections. Okay, thanks, Matthew Miller in the state, in the State Department. You're going to lecture the rest of the world. And then we're okay.
Crying that Russia interfered with our elections. It's like, what, two-faced.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So Natalie just had to step out here to go pick up the kids. Because we have a swim meet to get to in a little bit here. So she's on child pickup duty right now. So we're going to take your super chats and your Rumble rants and have a hangout for a little bit and just do a little Q&A here. Go ahead, David.
Okay, I'm going to start with the Rumble rants. We got a $50 from Pet and Mar. Voter fraud in the land of the free.
Shocking, I know. Thank you.
Then we got Sean Joe. Love you guys. Always quality info.
Thank you so much. We try. We're a free show, so we try our best here with our little team. We try to cover the stories the mainstream media ignores. So thank you so much for supporting us and subscribing. It's free to subscribe. Thank you.
And then we got G Fontest 119. Remember that graphic of Harris getting 52% in the exact ballot count? If that shows up again, that may be evidence, but could just be a ploy.
Huh. Well, now the station says it was a testing mistake and they apologize for it, but it seems pretty interesting, right? That Harris gets 52. Do we have that graphic, Philip, anywhere handy by any chance? So if you joined us late, if you tuned in a little bit late, we had it in the early part of the show. We go live every day at 4 p.m. Eastern time. If you're just tuning in, you're wondering like, hey, what is this show? How many of you are new, by the way? Let me know in the comments. Are you new here? We do the show every day at 4 p.m. Eastern time. But at the early part of the show, we showed you this news station in Pennsylvania that aired this during a Formula One race the other day. And eagle-eyed observers were like, what the hell? And it says 100% of precincts reporting Kamala Harris wins Pennsylvania 52% to 47%. Now, the ABC affiliate apologized, said it was just a mistake. Okay, just a mistake.
Well, and, at the very least, if it was graphic testing, which it likely could be graphic testing, I mean, that would make sense. Yeah. I don't know why they would be graphic testing on a live broadcast. You'd think you would do that on a computer that wasn't connected to the system. But at the very least, it shows the bias. It shows the bias of the person making the graphic.
Yes, exactly.
I was going to say, we run production here. We know how you set productions up and how you run them. You're not going to, why would you have an asset like that queued up during a formula race or whatever, like on a day that's not even election day? So that's like, it just makes no sense.
My broadcast computer that I run the show on is not connected to the computer that I edit and make assets on. They're not really. I'm never testing. I'm not making live assets that I can just accidentally push live. That's just not something that I've never seen anybody do. That'd
be like Philip testing a graphic live while we're on the show. Redacted will be taking a permanent hiatus in.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, next one.
Okay, we got Posada 20. You're such a great team.
Thank you so much. We try. Some of us are married.
277. Some of us, are trying to, Ginger 277. Thanks for reporting the truth. Love the show.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And then we got Miss Stacy Lynn, $20. Dominion Smartmatic voting machines are connected back to Soros. It's not who votes, it's who counts the votes. Stalin said this way back when.
Yeah, that's a good point, right? It's who counts the votes that matters. Not who votes, it's who counts the votes. And that's what always has troubled me about this system. Oh, so a group of Democrats in Pennsylvania are going to be checking out this stuff? Great, okay. I feel much better about it. Thank you. Tim S.
Oaks
Hold on,
Farm.
Sorry, there's two that just came in. I just want to say something. Joy Seeker says, hey, I'm new on this live show. I usually watch recorded Redacted. I love it so far. Joy, welcome. Yeah, it's great to be here live. I love interacting with the audience live. So, if you can be here, you take some time out of your day to watch us. We'd love to hang out with you. Thank you, Joy. Go ahead.
Stephen Oaks Farm. Driver's licenses for illegals which say limited term may be used in Tuesday election. Wisconsin Election Commission has a special meeting on Friday. See Chairman Brian Steele's press release. Steils.
Fascinating. Okay, thank you for that. That's deeply troubling.
G-Font 119. Republicans already got their campaign dollars laundered and returned from Ukraine.
It's a big money laundering operation through Ukraine. I mean, it really is. That's not a conspiracy at all. Just look at FTX. I mean, that was a massive money laundering operation. And look at all the oligarchs, all of the Ukrainian oligarchs who are now like living in France and other parts of the world with massive mansions and boats and yachts. A Ukrainian journalist just published her latest report on this. We're working to have her on the show. And she is highly disliked by Zelensky, by the way. In fact, I think Zelensky sanctioned her for her reporting on this. But the videos of these people with these like Bentleys and all sorts of cars, all these Ukrainians that made so much money off of your tax dollars. So you funded a lot of these billionaire Ukrainians, wealthy Ukrainians
and their pensions
to live in France. And their pensions, exactly.
Grass Guy 0313. Love you guys. Never miss a show. With all the election bullshit going on, how could we believe that Trump actually has a chance? I'm sure they haven't played their ace in the hole yet.
Who's they? You mean Trump hasn't played his ace in the hole, or the Democrats haven't played their?
Yeah.
I mean, we've been watching
with
out
the voting.
we've been watching out for any false flags. You know, are they going to pull out the Iran attacked us terrorist attack plan next? Like, is that the one they're holding back on? That, now it's, we got to watch out because Iran's trying to attack us. So we need to go to war, martial law. I mean, who knows what they're going to pull out? They could pull out anything.
Well, I think they thought that the Kelly thing was going to do much more damage than it did. You know what I mean? I think that was one of their big things.
So General Mike, you're talking about General Mike Kelly. One of these warmonger neocons, you know, that like a Dick Cheney, basically a Dick Cheney type. Mm-hmm. Can you give the context here for that in case people miss that?
Yeah. So basically, Kelly came forward and said that Trump had used language saying that he appreciated like Hitler's generals and stuff like that. And so I feel like when they released that, because it was such a coordinated thing, you know, you had all the news agencies in lockstep with what she was saying, that I think that they thought that was going to be a bigger deal than it ended up being.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because people don't believe it. I mean, people are smart enough now. And honestly, I have to say, thanks to X, can you guys imagine for a second? I don't care where you come down on like Elon Musk and his like fawning over Israel and all of that stuff, right? Everyone's like has a different opinion of it. If you can get past certain things of that with Elon, can you imagine what this election would look like if X was still owned by the same establishment that was coordinating with the Biden administration? If Twitter was still, it's unbelievable to actually think about, isn't it? It's actually kind of terrifying. You wouldn't get any of this information. And of course, it was a coordinated plan right after the Arab Spring to start censoring these social media platforms because too much information was getting out that wasn't being censored and filtered through the mainstream news media like CNN and MSNBC and so forth. So citizen journalists were able to get information in a way that we've never been able to before. So
and
they
it's
really
pissing them off worldwide
Elon.
because and even the EU, we just covered that. The EU talking specifically about going after X and Elon. And now this leak from the Harris campaign, you know, because they don't want us talking about things they don't want to, like, they want to come after us for misinformation because they can't get out their disinformation anymore.
Yeah. Aaron C.L. says, I was at Elon's town hall in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Good for you. Amish country in my old... I grew up not too far from there in Berks County. So,
Lancaster Market. You ever go there?
Oh yeah.
I love that place.
You mean the big?
I got a bunch of cheese.
Yeah. Yep. All right.
Barry
more super chats.
McGrowan at Redacted. Elon Musk needs to call the race on X on November 5th before the fake news has a chance to spin the results. That would truly be the shot heard around the world.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good point. The problem is that these broadcast networks are in the Associated Press. They're in collusion. I mean, that's honestly the best way to describe it. They work in cahoots with the Election Commission, right? So I think they get those results from them. We used to rely on a lot of exit polling. Exit polling was fantastic.
No, you would get before the 2000 election, before Bush and Gore, the news channels would call the election by the exit polls. Like they would literally say, hey, we know who's winning.
Yeah, exactly. So we knew because based on exit polling, these people would walk out of the polls. Who'd you vote for? This person. They would write them down. They knew exactly who was being voted. They had them all. So I don't know. I don't think it's ever going to happen on X. I mean, it'd be amazing.
Well, no, and the problem is, and the problem is on X, like he's going to have access to the same numbers they're going to have. Like if they inflate the numbers through mail-in ballots and stuff, they'd have access to the same numbers. So he would only have the same information to call it the same way they would.
Yeah. Right. Again, he'd just be getting their info. That's about it.
Right. Michael Schwab. The Castaways once wrote a song about Kamala Harris. It's titled "Liar, Liar, Pantsuit on Fire."
That's a song I don't feel like I'll ever need to listen to.
All right, I'm going to start throwing them up on screen for you. We got a lot of super chats today. All right, you ready?
Yep, let's do it. All right, Sailing Prepper Dark Secrets says, this is the one I was referring to earlier. Says, I just got laid off from Volvo, the closing in New York. I'm so sorry to hear about that. Volvo, a Swedish company, right? So, I'm curious how that's affecting Sweden in that way. But look, Europe is in trouble, and it's all thanks to these massive sanctions against Russia. And of course, it's the doubling of energy costs for all these manufacturers from Germany to Sweden, across Portugal. I mean, all of these places. You're spending so much more on energy costs because you have to now buy your natural gas from the United States and India when you had a massive pipeline, the Nord Stream pipeline that could deliver natural gas right to you at a fraction of the cost. It's crazy. It's crazy. So my thoughts go out to you. James H., thank you, says, you should do a special on Title 4D of the Social Security Administration and how it creates a conflict of interest in the family court and incentives parental alienation. Okay, I'm going to write that down, and I will look into it. Thanks, James. Freak Zero. Look at Austria. What happened to us? We have another democratic system, but doesn't wonder why that happened. Doesn't wonder why that happened with Trump. Thank you for that. Look at Austria. Yeah. Thank you for that. Sandy K. Wish I could donate more. By the way, this is a free show, so you don't have to do that at all. We just, thank you for supporting independent journalism. It costs a lot to put on this show, so thank you guys. But you don't have to. So thank you, Sandy, for just being here and posting us on Facebook or sharing it with a friend or emailing our show or texting a friend and say, hey, I don't know if you've ever seen this show before. Maybe you could watch. That's a huge help to us. So thank you, Sandy. Brandon says, I would love to see a presidential debate where Clayton and Natalie are asking the questions. That would be must-watch television. Thank you, Brandon. They would never allow it. They would never allow it. Could you imagine if I got to sit down for 2 hours with Kamala Harris and ask her questions? I would ask the same tough questions of Donald Trump. I would want to know about his support of Israel. I would want to know about a whole host of things. Why are you cozying up to Mike Pompeo? I mean, I have a list. Trust me, there'd be endless amounts of questions I have for Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, but they won't allow it. Actually, we're trying to get Trump on the show, so maybe that'll happen soon. We're talking to his team, so hopefully we can do that. Kamala, they will not do our show. Lone Wolf, if people were trying to assassinate me because public figures repeatedly called for violence, labeled me Hitler, I would sue those people for defamation and damages. Why isn't Trump? That's a good question. The problem is with defamation, of course, as a public figure, you have to prove the bar for defamation of public figures is incredibly high. Like, just an average citizen can sue for defamation and usually has a better chance of winning. But if you're a public figure, all you need to do is look at the court cases against the New York Times, trying to sue the New York Times for defamation. You have to prove that they had knowing intent or knowledge that what they were saying is false with an intent to harm you. So it's a very high bar to prove, but it's a great question. If they know they're purposely saying it with an intent to harm him, that's the thing he'd have to prove, though. So the bar is very high. That's why you don't see them suing more often, because it's just so damn difficult. We have the First Amendment for a reason, you know. Frozen Canadian says, freedom is the sure possession of those alone who have the courage to defend it. Pericles. Freedom is a sure possession of those alone who have the courage to defend. I agree with you. I've wondered more, the Frozen Canadian. Like, we saw all of those Canadian truckers who went out and valiantly defended freedom and said, you're not going to do this. And they froze their butts off, you know. And freedom is sure the possession of those alone who have the courage to defend it. And I think, you're seeing these wide open borders. Like, where are the thousands of Americans just lining their trucks up and saying, we can't allow you to cross our border? Natalie made a great point. She says they're working hard right now. They're trying to provide for their families, and so they're working long hours. That's right. And that's the conundrum. But I agree with you on that. Thank you for.
I think the founding fathers would be hugely disappointed if they saw today, like, how we've let they had the courage to fight and to create this country, from England or whatever, and we've just kind of let it go. I mean, look at our taxes and everything, and look at how our elections are being handled. Like, this is not what they intended.
Yeah, it's true. Here's a Rumble rant. I don't know how to pronounce your name. Ongawe Honawe. No law requires human beings to pay income tax. Stopped paying in 1994. Wow. By John. So if you're curious about that, by the way, if you're watching us for the first time, I have an interview here on the channel that I did with a former IRS agent. And this IRS agent, he now makes it his mission to teach Americans that it's actually, there's nothing in the Constitution, and it's actually against the law for you to pay income taxes, according to him. And he makes a, so I'll just give you the backstory on him real quick, and I encourage you to go watch that episode. He would go out and prosecute people. Like, he worked for the IRS. And he was literally one day driving on his way to go after somebody who avoided paying taxes. And he heard on the radio something about how you don't have to pay income taxes. It's illegal. There's no law that says you have to in the United States. And he's like, what? Come on, that's ridiculous. And he pulled over and he wrote down the information. He went to the IRS's own library and studied their own documents and discovered that what that person was saying on that radio show that afternoon was correct. And so then he went on a mission while he still worked at the IRS to try to disprove this. He tried to find any evidence that it was not illegal to pay income taxes, and he couldn't find it. So then he quit the IRS. He told his supervisor, he's like, look, what I'm doing is a sham. I'm going after people and prosecuting them for not paying their income taxes when there's no law that says what I'm doing is correct. And so now he has spent his life educating people on why you never have to pay income taxes. Anyway, watch that interview, and he has a whole, like, we can actually work with him. He has a training thing and all of this stuff if you're interested in that. So anyway, it's very, very interesting. Okay, Andrea Viola. I love that name. I live in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, and yes, they tried to send people home, and now a judge is allowing mail-in ballots after Election Day. Thank you from Bucks County, Pennsylvania. By the way, in Doylestown is where I first, one of the first places I ever did stand-up comedy back in the day. Can you believe that? The Doylestown Inn in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. There was a club downstairs called the Jug in the Wall. And yeah, it was a lot of fun doing stand-up comedy there back when I was 16 years old, and I loved being up in front of crowds, and anyway. So Doylestown has a special place in my heart. Gold Penny 1. Thank you, Natalie and Clayton, for your dedication to truly informing the public. Thank you, Gold Penny. I appreciate it. Euro Speed Automotive. I love you guys, Natalie. You're absolutely beautiful. Clayton, you don't beat me up, but you guys make a beautiful family. Also, let's take back our country one way or the other. I pity the fool who claims to vote for Trump and then probably doesn't. I pity the fool who claims to vote for Trump and then doesn't. Maybe that's what he meant to say. I don't know. But thank you. And look, thank you for saying my wife is beautiful. I appreciate that. Pure Life. The world is going crazy, just like the book said it would. Yeah. Right on. JP, a lot of truth is going to come out after the election disclosure in a lot of things. JP out. Thank you, JP. My son says, what does Doylestown have to do with elections? And hey, Miles, why are you listening to our show right now? Don't you have homework to do? Don't you have homework to do?
This is homework. What are you talking about? This is priceless knowledge that he can get here.
My son texts me and asks me, what does Doylestown have to do with the elections? It doesn't. We don't. And to my son, mind your own business. All right. Dusty Pickering says, thanks for covering real news. Texas loves Redacted. Hey, Dusty, thanks so much. Hey, do you think Ted Cruz is going to win? What's going on down there in Texas? Kind of crazy. Sailing Prepper Dark Secret says New York, not New England. Referring to Volvo, the Volvo closure. Yeah, that's right. Thank you for that. Curly Bill, a.k.a. Squeeze. Thank you for your $2 super chat. Appreciate that. Curly Bill.
He actually sent two $2 super chats, so thank you.
Curly Bill, I don't want to know how you got that nickname. All right, Demsis, thank you for your $5 super chat. Says, where are the United Nations EU observers to monitor fair elections that we see in third world nations? Oh, that'd be great. Can you imagine the United Nations, the EU observers coming to the United States to monitor our elections because we love to lecture the rest of the world? It'll never happen, of course. It'll never happen. My daughter's listening to the show, too. She says, Daddy, that's not very nice to tell people to mind their business. Oh, Ava, I'm telling you to mind your business. Don't you have homework to do? You have a swim meet tonight. You have to prepare for your swim meet tonight. You better get your homework done because we're going to go to a swim meet. I have to do the timing tonight at the swim meet. I'm volunteering to time them. I told my daughter if she's doing backstroke, I said I'm going to like add an extra 10 seconds to her time if she doesn't watch it. Anthony Goodley, Ron Paul is a don't miss guest, so don't be late. Yes, tomorrow on the show, Congressman Ron Paul, former presidential candidate Ron Paul, will be joining us to talk about ending the Fed, ending the Federal Reserve, and the collapse of the U.S. dollar, as well as what this means for gold. And all of that. So thank you, Anthony.
And Anthony is redacted moderator. So thank you, Anthony, for all you do.
Yes, Anthony's an amazing moderator. He always reminds people you can't post links in our chat. If you post links, because a lot of people will spam it with like advertising links and stuff like that. It blocks it. It'll will ban you actually if you post links in there. So don't post any links. And also, don't say anything disparaging about my wife. If you say something nasty about my wife.
Oh, yeah. That's a quick way to the underground.
And if I saw you in person, I'd punch you in the nuts. Punch you right in the face if you said so. That's my virtual way of kicking you out if you say something disparaging about my wife. But you guys are all great people. You would never do that. You guys are kind family people, so you wouldn't do that. So I appreciate it. Vic Zucchini, the underdog. I love Vic's avatar there with the zucchinis. I support Russia. My step-niece is from Belarus, and she said that her ex-classmates were snatched from the street in Belarus to fight for Russia. Scary. Wow. Okay. Jeez. We already did that one. Thank you for Demsis. We appreciate that.
They must have put in two.
Attack of the Windmills. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for your $4.99 super chat. All right. Is that it? No. Zachary, what's your issue with Israel? What's my issue with Israel? Have you been paying attention? My issue with Israel on what specifically are you asking me, Zachary? What is my issue? I'll give you one issue that I have with them and it's not just my issue. John Mearsheimer writes in his great book, The Israel Lobby. I encourage you to read it. It's a long book, though. I don't know if you're into that. But he details in great detail how the United States is basically bought by the Israeli lobby, and all of our politicians take money from Israel. Why in the world should our politicians be taking money from a foreign country? I don't care if it's Iraq or Israel, but Israel's the only one that does it. So that's my issue. Why are our politicians putting Israel first over the United States of America? There's only like one or two politicians that don't take money from Israel. That should outrage all of us, but it doesn't. And so that's one big issue I have with them. That's one huge issue I have with them. But there's a laundry list. I have problems with lots of countries, by the way. So do you notice that on this show, we cover the corruption and the rot of the United States of America? I'm American. I love my country. I love what the founding fathers stood for with this country. I love, my favorite president of the United States, Theodore Roosevelt. I love the United States of America, but I can't stand the rot and the politicians who are destroying it. So, I'm very critical of this country. I can be critical of any country I want.
Well, and again, you can love the people of a country and not like their government. That's not the same thing. When you have issues with Israel, we have issues with the government and the decisions of the government, not the people. And that's what I think people always think is like, you're just blanketing people, government, and everything all in one big box. And that's not what we do.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I have a huge problem with Netanyahu. I think he's an absolute warmonger. And there's no love lost at all for that guy. In fact, I know people that used to work for him that think he's a horrible human being. So, I have my opinions about that. But the people, like the children and the families that live in Tel Aviv, I have no qualms with them. I have qualms with Netanyahu and his government, absolutely. So that's my opinion there.
On the screen,
C. Tashera says, Clayton, please don't waste your time with sick people. Thank you. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. I don't think the person's sick. They're just asking, what is my problem? I want to put America first. I'm American, so that's my opinion on that. Mind of Tron.
Well, you can't always run from questions.
What's that?
I said you don't always run from questions. Like just because somebody asks a question that somebody might see as rude, they're asking a question. So.
Yeah, I'll answer it. You know me, I tend to call out. I answer questions all the time, so I'm not afraid of it. Mind of Tron. Wasn't income tax in trade for prohibition? Then a few years later, alcohol was legal again, and they kept income tax. Love the show. Happy Halloween. Well, yeah, and so the problem is it was supposed to expire. Income tax was a temporary law. It was a temporary law. It was never supposed to be in perpetuity, and it just stayed. But again, under the law, you don't have to pay it. Look into it. Research it yourself. Again, watch my interview.
Unless you live in Washington, D.C.
Unless you live in Washington, D.C., or you live outside the United States within 1 year of paying taxes or something like. He talks about it in my interview. There's a specific loophole for people like expats, and for people who live in Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia. So it's fascinating, but there's like a few little it's a really weird, but anyway, watch my interview with him. It's fascinating. Yeah. Any other super chats?
Nope. That seems to be it.
I don't know if we got any more on Rumble. I just want to make sure we didn't get any more Rumble rants. Trying to get all of them in today.
I'm looking real quick.
Make sure my kids
yes,
do the
we
homework.
did get a few more. I think you required Ong Wee Hanwei.
I think I did that one.
That's the one you did. Yep. And then Barry N. McGowan. Kamala is just one turd that slipped out of Biden's diaper. G. Fontes, The 2008 election was called just minutes after 10 p.m. for President Obama, and he was in Lincoln Park, Chicago, giving his acceptance speech, still in prime time nationwide.
Thank you for that.
And another one from ONG, no law requires human beings to pay in. Oh, that's the same. Yeah. So they sent the same one twice. So that's all of them.
Yeah. Oh, it's a long show. I'm out of my Black Rock coffee. Let's run out. Get over here. This is my son. Sit down. This is my son wearing his. Yeah, you were trash talking. He can't hear you guys so you were just trash talking. What's up with your hair, man? Come on. So you were making fun of me in a text message. I'm going to make fun of you now on live television.
At least he doesn't have the Bieber cut. Come on, man. That actually looks good. It's not that Bieber.
Have to do with.
It's not. Yeah, it's not a Justin Bieber hair. Grandma said, "Looks like you're." What did Grandma say to you yesterday?
No, I'm not gonna say that.
You're gonna say it?
No.
Yeah, say it. What did Grandma say?
She said that it looks like my hair saw a ghost.
Yeah, but it was like sticking straight up. This is like swimmer hair. Yeah, you better get ready for a swim meet. Are you excited? What are you swimming tonight?
400 IM.
400 IM. Is that it?
No, I have two 200s.
Two 200s?
Yeah. One of them is back.
Back. Oh, you're going to do backstroke? How you feel about that? You feel good?
Yeah, I'll do fine with that.
Feel good? All right, So we got a swim meet to get to. So we're going to do that. And you ready for me to time? You ready for me to time you tonight? I'm doing the volunteer timing.
Well, I don't know.
I'm going to forget to hit the stopwatch. So I'll add 30 seconds to your time. Shoot.
TL Boss.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you for TL Boss. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Goodbye from my son, Miles. He's got a swim meet to get to. I've got to go help. And thanks, everyone, for watching Redacted. We'll be back tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern time. By the way, I think we're planning to do a big live show on election night. So how many of you would like to be here live on election night with Redacted, watching the returns and seeing what's happening?
I'll be here.
Across the country. You're not allowed
I'll be here.
You have homework to do. All right.
Come on.
Election night, Redacted, live. Will you guys join us? Subscribe, turn on your little bell notifications. We'll be here live. Don't forget, we have a newsletter every day. So in the newsletter, we'll send you an update that day. It's a free newsletter. It's delivered to your inbox first thing in the morning. So just go to redacted.inc, put in your email address. You'll receive a welcome email from us. And then you'll get the newsletter. We publish the newsletter Monday through Thursday. It's a great newsletter. We cover like a lot of the big stories you might have missed overnight, but we'll make sure on Election Day morning we send you a reminder that we're going to be live on election evening with the times that we're going to start and do a big live show that night on election night, only 6 days away. So thanks everyone for joining us today.
Someone just told me to swim like a dolphin.
Swim like a dolphin? Mm-hmm. Don't listen to the chat room.
Okay.
Yeah. You know how to swim.
Yeah.
Don't
you
swim
might want to just turn your head and stop reading at this point, actually.
Yeah. Stop reading the chat room because you need to focus on how you know how to swim. If I go tonight and watch you swim and you start swimming like a dolphin, I'm going to blame you guys. Swim like a mermaid. All right, guys. Much love to all of you. We'll see you guys back here tomorrow. Bye, everyone.